Hey everyone, Thyworm here with some interesting findings on Tormented Spirits. I've tried several strategies, so let me enlighten you on what Tormented Spirits bring to the solo self-found table. Let's dive in. Tormented Spirits, or Torment, are the spirits of tormented criminals in Wraeclast. You can see and hear them, the green spirits that howl and flee towards packs of enemies. They imbue nearby monsters, commonly referred to as touching or touched monsters, making them stronger and improving their item drops. Any touched monster gains 25% increased item quantity and item rarity per touched modifier. It's also possible for spirits to possess rare and unique enemies, greatly increasing their threat and loot. Possessed monsters are referred to as gripped and have 50% increased item rarity per gripped modifier. Both touched and gripped modifiers are shown in green. Torment is considered extra content and has a chance to appear in any map area, but it is not known what the exact chances are. Typically, it is between 5 to 10% for extra content. There are many different Tormented Spirits, and I've played a bunch of maps with several of them activated. It is nothing special, honestly. However, it gets way more interesting when you scroll down on the wiki and see that also unusual Tormented Spirits exist, and you can get those in your map using a Scarab. These unusual ones drop way better loot. Let's talk about the prerequisites. I feel you need the Scarabs to make this strategy worth it. The Scarabs put spirits in the maps and make them unusual, which is mandatory in my opinion. Other than a few tormented Scarabs, there's not much else you need. In the Scarab section I will talk more about it. I will give an honorable mention to Fairgrave's tricorn here, which I am wearing. It allows you to be touched, giving you 50% increased movement, attack and cast speed and 50% increased damage, which is just a lot of fun. It's a random drop according to the wiki, but I have mostly seen this drop from unique strongboxes, like those warband uniques. Here's how the strategy works. What the wiki doesn't tell you, but what I am telling you, is what these unusual spirits are actually dropping. I can't be sure which of the three spirits actually drops what, but it's not relevant because you're not going to hover over these spirits, read their name and remember what they do. Besides, it's constantly running away from you. So I'm just going to consider all three different spirits as the same and tell you what happens. In terms of damage, you may notice several on-death effects. Small white orbs that explode and can absolutely one-shot you, or several sandstorms, or even shaper balls like you get in shaper-influenced maps, although these balls do not spawn additional monsters. In terms of loot, sometimes you get a bunch of currency. I'm like 90% sure that is caused by one of the spirits. Other times you get a bunch of fractured gear, but that is still rare and the wiki also mentions this. However, very often you kill the touched monsters and they drop either a load of Scarabs or a load of maps. And that is where it gets rather interesting. It is immediately noticeable because a spirit runs past a pack of monsters which you then kill, and they drop like 6 Scarabs or maps, or sometimes even more if you look at this footage. Those maps, even if they are normal white maps, are all unidentified for some reason, so it is going to cost you some wisdom scrolls. These are just the basics, however. Now we'll step it up a little bit. I chose to run a close corridor map like Toxic Sewers because it's easier for the spirit AI to find its way to monsters this way. I've also tested a bit of Jungle Valley, but I just don't think it's all that good. Once a Tormented Spirit hits a monster pack, it hits all of them in Toxic Sewers because they're grouped tightly together. I am running Righteous Fire, so I explode half the map in a layout like this. What you ideally do when you see a spirit is, well, nothing. You wait. You give the spirit a little bit of time for its AI to kick in, to locate monsters, touch and grip them, and only then are you going in for the kill. It does take 5 seconds maybe, but it is definitely worth it. I've tried this strategy as well with Speaker of the Dead allocated, so that the spirits possess you instead of monsters. They still touch enemies that they pass, but they do not possess them anymore. Once you are possessed, you can then run around and touch monsters, providing the same buffs as if the spirits themselves would do it. I think this is worth considering if you are a melee build, because you jump into a pack and all of them are instantly touched. You can touch up to 40 monsters this way. However, the big downside of Speaker of the Dead is the spirit AI, which sometimes does not want to cooperate at all, and from time to time they simply refuse to possess you. I found it to be simply too tedious, so I ended up not going for this, but you should at least consider it, or simply try it out for a few maps. It's 1 point on the Atlas tree. And then we're going into even more advanced mode, because knowing that these spirits drop a bunch of scarabs and maps, I tried combining it with various scarabs, which I will be covering in the next section. Small self-plug before scarabs. Check the description for Google Docs on all my SSF stuff, account name, POBs, Atlas trees, etc. There's a Discord link in there as well. I have a guild, Thy Guild, feel free to join in-game. And don't forget to subscribe, guys. Okay, back to the video. Before I go into the actual scarabs that I think you should be using, let me talk about another tormented scarab, the Scarab of Possession. Because I just want to give my thoughts on this one. This is a very weird scarab, which states rare monsters in area have a quarter chance to be possessed by up to 1 tormented spirit. A quarter chance, like 25%, right? I used 4 of these for 20 maps, so I had 80 of them in total. And you would expect that using 4 means 4 times a quarter chance, which means a whole chance, whatever that is. But you would think 100%, right? 100% chance. So that should mean that every rare in the map is possessed. This is also what the wiki states. It says that these chances are additive. I can tell you, however, this is not the case. I've ran 20 maps and I found multiple rare monsters which were not possessed at all. Now, maybe up to 1 can also mean 0 chance, so maybe you have 100% chance to either have 1 or 0 spirits in a rare, but that would be horrible, right? So I don't think that is actually the case. What I noticed is that most rares are not possessed, but the ones that are have multiple spirits in them. I have seen even 5 into a single rare, and the odds of 5 spirits running around in my map and going all into this rare without me noticing, that's really not high at all. Like, that is incredibly low that would happen, that chance. Now, I've seen these rares as is, like these are already there. It's not the case that spirits are running into these rares. So despite the wiki saying it increases the chance and it is additive in that sense, but not the number, I think it is the exact opposite. I am fairly certain these scarabs, when using 4 of them, still have a 25% chance for a rare to be possessed, but in case it is possessed, it can be possessed by up to 4 tormented spirits. And I think the rare in question, which I talked about before, was already touched also by Seance, so hence he had 5 spirits. This explanation is much more consistent with my experience, and I think also would make a lot more sense from a design perspective. Regardless of whether I am right or the wiki is right, these scarabs are pretty bad, because using 4 scarabs for either 100% of rares in the map, which may have up to 1 spirit, or 25% of the rares in the map having multiple spirits, these are not worth running. Also because they don't synergize with the peculiarity scarab, meaning that the spirits added by the Tormented Scarab of Possession are not unusual spirits, but your regular ones. That is way less attractive because the regular Tormented Spirits kind of suck. Alright, with that scarab out of the way, let's go into the ones that I actually used. That means that for scarabs, you should use at least 2 regular Torment scarabs plus 1 Torment Scarab of Peculiarity for the unusual spirits. The regular scarabs also provide a 50% chance for a tormented spirit to leave the host after it's killed and possess and touch more monsters, which is exactly what you want. Do not chase and kill it, but let it fulfill its purpose so you can fill your pockets afterwards. With 3 scarabs covered by torment, that leaves you with 2 more. First, I tried adding in rogues and trying to get some unique items from them, but I quickly realized that trying to combine torment with rogues and unique loot was too much cooking. The rogue scarabs, those that give uniques, they scale with pack size, not with rarity, so it's not a great idea. Then I tried some wisp scarabs, which is pretty decent. If you have those lying around, just slot them in. They do noticeably increase the rarity and amount, and it's a decent scarab. Similarly, scarabs that add raw monsters into the map are great because they're already there when you load the map, meaning they can be touched by wandering spirits. I also tried ambush and some other mechanics, but the main issue with Torment is that the spirits typically don't stick around, which means they're either dead or flying while you try to open, for example, a strongbox or a breach. The monsters from the strongbox will almost never be touched, and that is true for a lot of other League mechanics too. You can try a few, I think Legion might work very well, but I don't think in general this is the way to go. So what I ended up doing instead was looking for synergies with the massive number of scarabs and maps that are dropping. I didn't find much synergy with scarabs apart from Searing Exarch altars, but for maps there are some interesting scarabs. The Cartography Scarab of Corruption turns every map into an 8-mod corrupted map, and the Delirium Scarab of Delusions adds layers of delirium to those maps, and they stack, they synergize. You'll be dropping a load of 8-mod corrupted maps with delirium layers, which you can even use for this exact same strategy. It's not quite self-sustaining, but it is getting there. So that's it for the scarabs, and then the map device. Also here I did some testing with rogues, ambush and torment, but ultimately you want to pick torment. Any spirit you add this way is an unusual spirit, and that's just good, right? You get all these maps, you get these scarabs. It's way more valuable, I think, than adding a pack of monsters. So the more spirits, the better, because they touch more monsters, and those touch monsters are where all the loot is coming from. Rather than adding monsters on the map device, you want to add spirits to touch and possess these monsters. Let's talk about the Atlas passive tree and the choices I made. I am blocking most League mechanics for no particular reason. I just like to focus on what the video is about. You could find certain synergies, I'm sure. I still think Legion might be actually decent. I have otherwise a very standard Atlas, so I am going only to highlight the interesting stuff. You take Paranormal Meeting and all the small nodes for 1 extra wandering spirit. You take Unrelenting Torment for a chance of 7 more spirits in the boss area. These will all be unusual spirits if you use the Scarab. And of course you take Seance for even more spirits and touched monsters. I'm also taking the rogue combination of Ruckus and Exiled Will for a chance of 20 possessed rogues. I'm fairly sure those do not respect the scarabs, so those will not be the unusual spirits, but still it's nice if this happens. In a small map like Toxic Sewer, those rogues blow up with the rest of the packs. The rest is quite standard regarding this Atlas. A small shout out to Searing Exarch, which synergizes well with map and scarab drops by providing chances to duplicate them. I hope you try out this strategy, let me know what you think. Also, let me know if you have any suggestions. Subscribe and like for more PoE SSF guides. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. Love you all, see you soon, bye bye.